The deafening roar of 94,000 people at the Rose Bowl in 1994 wasn't just a sound. It was a seismic event that promised to change the landscape of American sports forever. The air in Pasadena was thick with blistering heat and the intoxicating scent of a new era. To the global community, it looked like the United States was finally embracing the world's game with open arms. They saw the vibrant colors, the packed stadiums, and the undeniable logistical success of the tournament. It was marketed as a sporting gold rush, a moment where the final frontier of soccer would finally be tamed by American industry and ambition. But as the confetti settled and the world's elite players headed home, a different kind of architecture was being drafted in the shadows of the boardrooms. Enter the American soccer dream, a personified ideal that walked with the swagger of a billionaire and the naivety of a child. This character believed that history could be bought and that a century of footballing tradition could be replicated overnight with a large enough marketing budget. This dream was convinced that the secret to success lay not in the dirt of the streets or the grit of the grassroots, but in the gleaming glass of corporate suites. It was an era of profound arrogance, where the United States Soccer Federation decided the beautiful game needed an American makeover to survive. They didn't want to join the global culture. They wanted to colonize it, turning a sacred, gritty sport into a sterilized, family-friendly product designed for consumption rather than competition. This mindset led to a Faustian bargain that would haunt the sport for decades. The USSF, acting as the corporate architect of this new world, prioritized commercial viability over the very soul of the game. They weren't looking for the next world-class striker from the inner city. They were looking for the next wealthy demographic to target. They treated soccer as a commodity to be packaged and sold to suburban families, rather than a living, breathing culture that belonged to the masses. By focusing on broadcast rights and corporate sponsorships, they built a system fundamentally disconnected from the raw, unbridled passion that fuels soccer in every other corner of the globe. The sport became a business venture first, and a competitive pursuit second, sacrificing organic growth for the safety of profit margins. This desperation to appeal to a disinterested audience gave birth to the gimmick era. When Major League Soccer finally kicked off, it felt less like a professional league and more like a fever dream of American sports marketing. Afraid that the traditional game was too slow or too foreign for the public, they introduced the infamous 35-yard shootouts. Players would dribble from the line, sprinting toward the keeper in a frantic race against a 5-second clock. It was a pathetic sight, a mockery of the sport's inherent tension and tactical beauty. The countdown clocks ticked backward toward zero, and the matches felt like they were being written by focus groups rather than historians. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. While the gimmicks eventually faded, the shadow of corporate greed remained as the foundation of the league. The infrastructure of the American game was built to protect the capital of elite investors, not to develop the talent of the nation. They created a closed system, a fortress without the threat of relegation or the promise of organic promotion. It was a safe space for billionaires where their investment would never be at risk, regardless of the performance on the field. This systemic cage was designed to keep the money in and the outside world out. It was a rejection of the meritocracy that defines global football, replacing the life or death stakes of the game with a risk-free business model that prioritized stability over excellence. We were told that 1994 was a great ascent, the moment the United States would finally take its place among the footballing giants. But in reality, it was the moment the cage door quietly slammed shut. The very structure that was supposed to lift American soccer to the heavens was instead trapping its potential within a framework of exclusion and corporate safety. While the world looked at the 1994 legacy as a glorious birth, for the pure development of the sport, it was the start of a systemic imprisonment that would stifle growth for generations. The American soccer dream had built its house on sand, unaware that the tide of global reality was already coming in to expose the cracks. As the corporate structure solidified, it birthed a predatory beast that would soon be known as the pay-to-play monster. In the rest of the world, soccer was the game of the poor, a sport requiring nothing more than a ball and a patch of dirt. But in the United States, The USSF and its partners transformed it into a country club luxury. They took the world's most accessible sport and locked it behind a velvet rope, charging thousands of dollars for the privilege of a structured environment. This was the ultimate betrayal of the working class. While global clubs were scouting the favelas and industrial outskirts, the American system looked only at zip codes with the highest median incomes. This created a haunting landscape of what we now call the lost talents. These are the ghosts of American soccer, the brilliant strikers from inner cities and creative midfielders from immigrant communities. These children possessed the natural rhythm and grit-filled passion the sport demands, but they were never seen. They couldn't afford the $5,000 annual club fees, travel costs, or designer uniforms. Because they couldn't pay to play, they were systematically erased from the national radar. Scouts favored pristine suburban complexes, watching kids whose parents funded a hobby rather than those whose lives depended on the ball. The result was a profound cultural disconnect that sanitized the American game. On one side was the plastic suburban soccer culture, a world of orange slices and participation trophies where the stakes were low and the environment was controlled. It was a sterilized version, stripped of the desperate hunger found in the world's gritty streets. On the other side was the authentic, grit-filled passion of the global game, where soccer was a religion, not a Saturday activity. This divide meant the United States was producing athletes but not soccer players. They were manufacturing fast, strong runners who lacked the tactical soul and instinctive street smarts that only come from a culture where the game is played for survival. The cracks in this foundation finally shattered on a rainy night in October 2017. The setting was Couva, a modest stadium with metal bleachers and a pitch resembling a swamp. This was the night of the 2018 Cataclysm. The United States only needed a draw against a team with nothing to play for, but the superpower illusion, built on the back of the 1994 euphoria, crumbled in the mud. As the final whistle blew, the reality hit with the force of a tidal wave. The United States had failed to qualify for the World Cup. It was an ultimate humiliation that reverberated through the halls of the USSF. The giant had fallen, not to a world power, but to its own internal rot and the arrogance of believing it was too big to fail. In the aftermath, the masks fell away, revealing a civil war of internal politics and finger-pointing. The American soccer dream was no longer a personified ideal of success. It was a fractured shell. Fans who had spent decades supporting the program turned their anger toward a federation that had become a bloated, out-of-touch bureaucracy. The infighting was vicious, exposing a leadership more concerned with protecting executive positions than fixing the broken grassroots system. They had spent decades building a marketing machine, while the actual foundation of the sport was crumbling from neglect. The arrogance born in 1994 had finally broken. The chilling realization from the wreckage was that the failure of 2018 wasn't an accident. It was the inevitable harvest of the seeds planted in the boardrooms during the post-94 euphoria. Every decision to prioritize corporate investors over inner-city outreach, every moment the plastic suburban culture was chosen over authentic player development, led directly to that mud-soaked pitch in Trinidad. The systemic cage had finally done its job, but instead of keeping the world out, it had trapped the American game in a cycle of mediocrity. The 1994 legacy was now revealed to be the very thing that had stunted the growth of a nation. While the United States continues to stumble through its self-inflicted wounds, the global stage offers a humiliating contrast. Iceland, a frozen island with half the population of a mid-sized city, or Croatia, a nation born from the fires of conflict, provide the evidence. These countries have a fraction of the resources, yet they possess 10 times the heart and a surgical clarity of identity. They do not have stadiums or complex corporate hierarchies. They have a soul. They produce world-class talent because their systems are built on pure merit and a deep ancestral connection to the ball. In these nations, soccer is an expression of national survival, while in the American landscape, it remains a product being optimized for a quarterly earnings report. The American soccer dream watches from the sidelines. The USSF and its partners have mastered the marketing mirage. They sell the future by importing global icons like David Beckham or Lionel Messi, using their celestial glow to blind the masses to the rot beneath the foundation. These stars are sold as proof of growth, but they are actually distraction tactics. They create a spectacle that fills seats and moves merchandise, yet do nothing to fix the broken pipeline for the inner-city child who still cannot afford club registration fees. The American game has become a series of high-profile events rather than a cohesive sporting culture. We are selling the sizzle while the steak remains frozen and artificial. This reliance on imported prestige is a confession of failure, an admission that the system cannot produce its own icons because it is too busy protecting corporate capital. Now, the clock is ticking toward 2026, and a cold anxiety is settling over the American landscape. We approach the next home World Cup, the promised land meant to rectify past mistakes. But look closely, and you will see the ghosts of 1994 repeating themselves. Focus is skewed toward ticket sales, luxury hospitality, and maximizing commercial footprints. They hope a shiny tournament washes away 30 years of failure, but stadiums do not win matches, and marketing campaigns do not develop creative playmakers capable of breaking down world-class defenses. We are walking into our own house as guests, fearing we are setting the stage for other nations to celebrate while we remain trapped in a cycle of mediocrity. Are we ready for the world, or just hosting an expensive party for a game we don't understand? If there is a path to redemption, it is a painful one. It requires the dismantling of the pay-to-play monster that has devoured 3 generations of talent. It requires the USSF to stop behaving like a Fortune 500 company and start acting like a humble guardian of a national treasure. The corporate structure must be humbled, and the gates of the game must be thrown wide open to the working class, the immigrant communities, and the dreamers who have been excluded for decades. We must be willing to trade the sterile safety of our closed system for the beautiful, chaotic meritocracy of the global game. Only by destroying the systemic cage can we hope to find a unique American style, one that is as diverse, gritty, and relentless as the country itself. Looking back at the 1994 legacy, the final reflection is bittersweet. It gave the United States a league and a seat at the table, but the price was the soul of the sport. It turned the beautiful game into a sterilized business, a product so polished and managed that it lost the friction necessary to spark greatness. We bought stability at the cost of the World Cup trophy. As the lights begin to rise for the 2026 spectacle, the haunting question remains. Is this the dawn of a new era, or the final act of a mistake? If we fail to capture the hearts of our own people this time, if we prioritize the dollar over the dream once again, it will be the longest, most expensive funeral in sports history, where a nation buried its potential under corporate gold.